India's energy strategy may be at a turning point again. After years of sanctions and shifting supply lines, a familiar option is quietly back on the table: Iranian oil. But the question is not just whether India wants it. The real question is whether it can, and at what cost. As the United States temporarily eases sanctions on Iranian crude, Indian refiners are watching closely. The waiver is limited, just 30 days. It allows oil that has already been loaded onto ships to be delivered. It does not open the door for fresh exports. But even this narrow window has triggered movement. Refiners in India are now exploring the possibility of bringing Iranian crude back into their supply mix. These are not final decisions yet. Companies are waiting for clear signals from New Delhi and, more importantly, clarity from Washington on how payments can be made without violating financial restrictions. Because in oil trade, it is not just about supply, it is about transactions. There is a practical reason behind this renewed interest. India's crude stockpiles are relatively smaller compared to other major Asian economies. At a time when global supply chains are under stress, flexibility becomes critical. And Iranian oil has always been a suitable fit for many Indian refineries, both technically and economically. The timing is also significant. The ongoing tensions in West Asia, particularly involving the United States, Israel, and Iran, have disrupted traditional oil flows. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy corridors, is facing uncertainty. As shipments slow and risks increase, global oil markets are tightening. And that is where Iran comes back into the picture. Estimates suggest that between 130 to 170 million barrels of Iranian crude are currently at sea, waiting for buyers. This is not a small number. It represents a significant volume that can help ease immediate supply pressures, especially in Asia, where dependence on Middle Eastern oil remains high. For India, this presents both an opportunity and a dilemma. On one hand, accessing Iranian oil could help stabilize supplies and potentially reduce costs. On the other hand, the geopolitical risks remain. Sanctions are only temporarily eased. Payment mechanisms are unclear, and any misstep could expose Indian companies to financial penalties or diplomatic complications. That is why the government's role becomes crucial. So far, Indian refiners are proceeding with caution. They are not rushing into deals. Instead, they are assessing risks, studying compliance requirements, and waiting for official direction. This reflects a broader approach: strategic, measured, and aligned with national interest. It is also important to note that India has not been sitting idle. In recent years, refiners have diversified their sources, increasing imports from countries like Russia and parts of West Africa. This has helped cushion the impact of disruptions in the Middle East. But diversification has its limits, especially when global markets tighten simultaneously. The possible return of Iranian oil, even if temporary, could provide some breathing space. But this is not a long-term solution, at least not yet. The current waiver is time-bound. It is designed to ease immediate pressure, not to reset global oil trade dynamics. For any sustained engagement, there would need to be broader policy shifts both in Washington and in the region.
Earlier, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington had allowed India to purchase Russian oil that is already on ships at sea. Later, Washington allowed other countries to buy Russian oil in a major shift from its narrative that buying oil from Moscow is equivalent to funding Ukraine war.
The Indians had been very good actors. We had asked them to stop buying sanctioned Russian oil this fall. They did. They were going to substitute it with U.S. oil, but to ease the temporary gap of oil around the world, we have given them permission to accept the Russian oil. We may unsanction other Russian oil. You know, the other thing Treasury can do here, Larry, is there are hundreds of millions of barrels of sanctioned crude on the water, and in essence, by unsanctioning them, Treasury can create supply. And you know, we are looking at that. We're going to keep a cadence of announcing measures to bring relief to the market during this conflict. And Larry,
The change in U.S. stance on Russian oil has been quicker due to the war. Barely a month ago, U.S. did not want anyone to buy Russian oil, saying such trade is funding Ukraine war. India has constantly countered the logic, saying energy security is paramount and no country can dictate its options.
What about the monetary mechanism with regard to Russian oil? How will that work?
So two things. On the oil, there's a agreement. I also don't want to be given out too much in the sense that what private conversations happened occurred between the two leaders. We have seen India diversify on their oil. There is a commitment. This is not about India. The United States doesn't want anyone buying Russian oil. The president has been very clear on this. He wants this war to end. And so anyone who is in a way still involved with that conflict is something that the president wants to see come to an end in hopes of peace coming with that. On the first part of your question, that is also, there's multiple mechanisms. It's not one executive order. So that is making its way through the pipeline. The executive order specifically on oil was already signed. So that's done. The second part of it on the tariffs being rebalanced, there's multiple things. It's not just one piece of paper. It's multiple things, multiple departments, multiple areas. And so that'll also happen very soon.
So where does this leave India? At a crossroads. Balancing energy security with geopolitical realities has always been a delicate task. This moment is no different. The opportunity is real, but so are the risks. In the coming weeks, the decisions taken by policymakers and refiners will determine whether Iranian oil once again becomes part of India's energy basket or remains a short-lived option in a volatile global market.
Look, on both Russian oil and on Venezuela oil, we have issued statements. We have made our position very clear. So I would once again request you to look at what we have said in the last few weeks on both these subjects. On Venezuela, we had said that if it is commercially viable, then we can explore buying oil from Venezuela. Clarified our position on Venezuela oil as also on the other question that you asked. So our position remains the same.